Hello everyone and welcome to this new Toni Talks. We are going to talk about another cloud subscription service today. Yeah. Anyway, today we're going to talk about East-West and their Composer Cloud subscription service, which is another one of those ambiguous subscription service. Last time we talked about Musio, and today East-West is target of our discussion. But in order to talk about their current subscription service, we need to discuss how they progressed through their career of creating virtual instruments. East-West started out creating different kind of sample libraries back in the day, like almost 20 years ago, if I'm informed correctly. And they initially started out creating contact instruments for their native instruments environment. Back in the day, they were creating contact instruments for Contact 3, so no complete control was actually a thing. And they quickly realized what a few developers are actually realizing today as well, which is the exact same reason why Musio was created. They realized, okay, native instruments contact environment is kind of pricey. If we want to develop for that, we have to put quite a bit of money into releasing it for their platform. Plus, Contact 3 wasn't as powerful as Contact 7 is today. So they thought we can create our own sampler, which can do the same thing or even more. And so they did. So they quickly, after realizing their Quantum Hollywood kind of orchestra libraries for Contact, which were really outstanding back in the day for Contact, they switched over to creating their own sampler. And so they did with their Play release. So the sampler they created is called Play. And this sampler was their flagship sampler for over 10 years. They released so many libraries for that platform, which are all of them are actually great. The sampler had its flaws, and it still has today. So some of the flaws were never fixed, but the libraries were great. And East-West, for sighted people, the Composer Cloud is one of the most attractive cloud subscription services out there because it's so comprehensive. You've got everything from complex and fully stacked Hollywood orchestral libraries to the smaller chamber ones, to ethnic stuff, to kind of different guitars and drums and everything. There's literally everything included in this subscription service. So for sighted people, East-West Composer Cloud is really attractive. However, before we discuss why you probably shouldn't get into the cloud subscription service, they finally, like 4 or 5 years ago, decided that Play wasn't going to be the cutting-edge technology that they thought it would be. And they decided to switch over and transit to a new sampler that they created. So now they've already developed their second sampler, which is now called Opus, which has far more features than Play and is much faster and much more efficient. And they released their Hollywood orchestra library on Opus, which is the exact same library that they released for Play, except that it has more features, more instruments. They reused the samples, but they also added new samples and new instruments and stuff, and re-released it on Opus. And it's much quicker, much more efficient. The samples are can be compressed without losing quality. Like the compression algorithm is much more efficient, so it's smaller and still is the same quality. So they improved a lot of stuff. And Opus is really a good sample player if you can use it. And that's the stick. So you already know where it ends, right? Most of the Toni Talks videos end with the point, but it isn't accessible. But hear me out. I subscribed to East-West Composer Cloud over a year ago. I think initially starting out January 2022, I decided why not give it a go? Because I asked East-West, and East-West said, we have NKS compatibility for our products. And I believed them, and I checked it out, and I noticed that they really have NKS compatibility for their products. So I decided to give it a try and subscribe to their Composer Cloud, which, by the way, is, I think, $29 per month, which is still reasonable. because you get over a terabyte of different instruments, which you can just download and use for free. Not for free, but you can use them. And there are multiple stages. I think they have a 19 and a 29 subscription service, and some of the instruments are only available in the 29. I'm not entirely sure. I got the 29 one back in the day, I think. Or I got it reduced because of some discounts that it got because it got some other instruments and they had a partnership, something like that. Anyway, I had the full service and I installed all the libraries that I found useful. And then after doing that, you have to run the installer, the NKS installer from their website, which is available in their support section. You have to install the libraries first and then run the NKS installer. Because what that will do, it will detect the libraries you've currently installed and then install the NKS snapshots for those. Now here comes the thing. These NKS snapshots are the worst I've ever seen. They literally did the lowest possible effort that they could do. It's even worse than you think it is. You don't have previews. That's the first thing. I can live without previews. Would be nice to have them, but you don't have them. You have no previews. You have an incredible amount of snapshots. You have 4 or 5 snapshots per patch because you have different options, which is kind of a good idea, but they're not properly labeled. That's the second thing. So you can have a preset where you can change articulations per key switch. You do have a patch where you can change articulations per CC event. You do have a snapshot where you have articulations mapped to velocity ranges, and all of those are the same patches with the same instruments, but also a different name because they haven't introduced all of that into one patch, but you have individual patches for that. That is okay for me. It's not my personal taste, but that might be useful to some people to a certain degree. But having to scroll through thousands of presets for an orchestral library, which only got 100 patches, which is still much, but having to scroll through so many presets really makes me tired, especially if you don't have previews, because you always have to go from preset to preset in order to hear what the instrument sounds like. But that's not the thing that really bothers me. The thing that really bothers me is you don't have any parameters mapped. Nothing. No tag, no release, no reverb, no volume, nothing. All the 8 knobs are unmapped and you don't have a single page of parameters mapped to complete control. Not a single one. You only got the instrument. You can only play notes. That's it. Everything else is unmapped. And there are parameters there, which are available if you only load the play instrument, except the play instrument, the play sampler, isn't accessible at all. But if you load the instrument within play, you have parameters. They're just not mapped to complete control. And it's not that it isn't possible. It's just that they didn't bother doing it. And that is what makes me think that it's not worth getting into the cloud subscription. I canceled my subscription because that's not worth it. Another thing that screams don't get the subscription is that they don't bother making NKS snapshots for their Opus libraries. I asked them back in the day when I got into the cloud subscription service, because I noticed that only the Play libraries got NKS support. Before I even noticed that the NKS support is so bad, I asked them if they were to create NKS snapshots for the Opus libraries, and they responded to me and said, yeah, that's on our roadmap, we will do that soon. Yeah, over 1.5 years later almost. They've never done something like that. In fact, they've never posted any update to their NKS support ever since I got into the cloud subscription service. So, how to sum it up? Number 1, Play is not accessible, Opus is not accessible on its own. Number 2, you have NKS support, but it's the worst NKS support I've ever seen, and it's only available for Play libraries, not for Opus libraries. And the newer libraries are only going to be released and are only released for Opus. Play is still supported, but it doesn't get updates, and the libraries just exist because they exist and because they need to be transferred over to Opus, and as soon as that's the case, they will like get rid of Play as soon as all the libraries are transferred properly to Opus. And as soon as that's the case, NKS support isn't a thing anymore. And for that bad support, I wouldn't pay. Now, let me add, though, that if you can still see or have CytoTab who can help you through setting everything up in Play or Opus even, then the subscription service is awesome. Like, you get a lot of stuff for your money. Really a lot. It's over 1 terabyte of samples. They are well sampled, especially when looking at the time where they were released, right? There are orchestral libraries in there which were released prior to 2010, which is, the quality is amazing. East West were one of the first big companies to sample orchestra stuff, and even non-orchestra stuff. Like, there's a lot of ethnic stuff in there. The quality is amazing for the time when they were created. You can't do anything wrong if you can use the entire product line. For that money, like price tag, the amount of libraries you get, you can almost do everything with it. But if you have to rely on accessibility, I cannot recommend this, not at all. As long as they aren't doing anything about the NK support, like at least add the parameters, map the parameters properly, maybe clean up the naming of the patches a bit, add previews, would be awesome. Not exactly necessary, but awesome. And this would be even more important to me, because their newest Hollywood Orchestra Diamond Opus Edition is really, really great. I'd love to use this one, but I cannot because they don't bother creating NKS snapshots. Really add NKS support for their Opus, like fully fledged NKS support. It's not just for the Composer Cloud people, but for everyone who buys the Opus library. It's not just like they only offer the cloud subscription. They also offer to buy the entire product instead of the subscription service. And the NKS support would help those people as well. Just create proper NKS support if your sampler isn't accessible, which, yeah, it happens. Whatever. Would be great if it was, but it isn't. So the only thing that you can do, or the easiest way that you could add accessibility, is to add NKS support, proper NKS support. Do that, and I would change my mind on that topic completely. Like, my opinion will flip over. Get that one. As soon as Opus is accessible, or the Opus libraries are accessible, that would already make a big difference. And if they extend this to Play as well, then go grab this discounted, or even non-discounted, grab the cloud subscription service. But as long as that's not the case, stay away from it. Don't touch it. It's not worth the money, seriously. The sounds are great. If you personally feel comfortable with only getting the sounds without having access to any parameters and only having access to Play, and you say, yeah, paying the money, maybe you got a discount as well. And if you think like paying the money for only that, and you're well aware of what you get and what especially you don't get, then sure, go ahead and grab it. You can still play the sounds, which are great, but you cannot use all of it. And it's always the question, do you want to pay the money for the reduced accessibility, for the reduced feature set that you actually get? Do you want to pay for the full price for just being able to use like 30% of the features? If you feel fine with that, or you've got a discount, then go ahead. If you don't feel comfortable with that, then stay away, right? That's my recommendation here. I personally turned away from this. I've got enough of samples, a lot of stuff, and I'm pretty happy with what I've got. And I don't need East-West because it's just not doing it for me. And yeah, I hope that helps you somewhat in clarifying if you should get one of the cloud subscription services that is out there. Now we've discussed Musio. Now we've discussed East-West. There aren't any more cloud subscription services, I think. These might be the only ones, except Complete Now. But that's an entirely different topic and a much easier one in addition to that. So hope that helped you somewhat, and hope that clarifies a bit what the cloud subscription landscape looks like in regards of musical stuff. And yeah, let me know if you want me to discuss anything else that's out there and you don't know about, or don't know about its goodness. about its accessibility. It's a hard word, right? Accessibility. Say this 5 times fast in a row. Accessibility. If you know, goodness, if you want to know anything about accessibility and you know that the product's out there, but you don't know how it accessible is, or how to use things and whatever, you know the drill. Write me a comment below the video, below any video really. Subscribe to the channel, and we will get in touch as soon as possible. Until then, a new video will come out every Monday. Stay tuned for that, and we'll hear from each other. Bye bye.